Well, South Africa is hosting the 39th Steering Committee meeting of the International Partnership on Hydrogen. The gathering aims to develop the local fuel cell market. Science and Innovation Minister Blade Nzimande addressed a meeting in Pretoria today and joins us live now on News at Prime. A very good evening to you, Minister. Good to have you on the show, especially at this time when so much has been said about the ministry. But we won't start there. Let's start with the issue of the day, which is this meeting that you're hosting and why it is such an important gathering for South Africa to host at this point.
Thank you very much, Tembegile, and thanks for inviting me. Indeed, this is a very important gathering, a gathering of a number of countries that are working together to promote hydrogen fuel cells as alternative and renewable source of energy. And in South Africa, we are active participants. As a matter of fact, this organization, which is focusing on working together on hydrogen economy, has got what is called a panel, and we are chairing this panel. Members are about 28 countries, which would include Austria, Germany, and so on, so that we are able to share experiences and share information. In particular, also, the hydrogen fuel cells issue in South Africa is driven through a program adopted by Cabinet a while ago, which is Hydrogen Society Roadmap, on what are we going to be doing to promote a hydrogen economy. Lastly, also, we have what we call a hydrogen valley, which moves from Limpopo through to Pretoria, down to Durban, our port city, that through that corridor, we are actually going to be producing hydrogen fuel cells, and also, of course, some of them even exporting them outside the country. So this is a very important gathering that is happening. It's being hosted by us. It's the first time we are hosting it since we started chairing last year, and it's something that is very important. Our Department of Science and Innovation is deeply involved in the development of hydrogen economy as an alternative to energy, and also given the challenges that we are having with energy now.
Just on that, Minister, I wanted to ask you if anything is coming forward out of these engagements that may perhaps hold the key or a partial solution, if you will, to the ongoing electricity crisis.
Well, hydrogen fuel cell may not be able immediately to provide a relief, but because it's still early stages, really. But we are already now experimenting with the hydrogen fuel cells. For instance, in the Anglo-Platinum mine in Limpopo, they produced the first trucks, the big trucks at the mines, which are now using only hydrogen fuel cell. We've also been running a few hospitals now through the Department of Science and Innovation using hydrogen fuel cells. We are also going to be having a pilot study in Guatemala, in KZN, on actually beginning to run some of the houses in terms of electricity using hydrogen fuel cells. It's still early stages, but I must say, Tembegile, that this is actually very promising.
And I was looking at the list of people who are participating in these engagements that you're holding this week. A lot of them are academics, people from industry as well. And I wonder if, with our very unique socio-economic context, there's a way in which we can take such conversations around hydrogen, for example, and make not just the knowledge, but the benefits accessible to every South African, whether you are rich, middle class, or poor.
Yes, indeed. This gathering actually is a combination of scientists. It's a combination of the private sector. It's a combination of government. But even much more exciting, we actually have got students who are participating here, some of whom have gotten awards for the work that they are doing. We have got PhD students, master's students, but what I'm even excited most about, they are TVET college students who are participating, because we are also focusing on what kinds of skills will be needed in order to drive a hydrogen economy. And we have got a value chain that would range from new artisans that will have to look after the hydrogen fuel cells economy, right up to top scientists, including engineers as well, who are going to be doing this. They are also participating here. This is very important to us because those alternative sources of energy will have to be accessible to everybody. That's our point of departure. It can't just be something that is accessible only to those who can actually afford.
And just while we have you, I'm sure you were listening to the earlier report which we played out, the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula commenting on weekend reports of an apparent fallout, some are calling it, or you not getting as much publicity, some are saying, as versus your deputy Buti Manamela. Have you two been quarreling over that, as some are suggesting?
I don't think that it's correct to call this thing a fallout, to be quite honest. There's no fallout with my deputy minister as far as I'm concerned. All what some of these things that have been leaked to the media is about getting things done correctly in my ministry and in my department. And I start with myself as a minister. If I've got a program that I want done, it gets prepared properly, on time, and be presented back to me for approval. And I want that to apply to my deputy minister, to my director generals, and to all my staff in the office. What really has been leaked is more about trying to put my ministry and my department to actually function properly according to the rule book. That is all that is actually been leaked, and so on. Some of you have heard my voice, and so on. I was actually saying the manner that we do things must also not lead to creating tension between or amongst anybody in my department, including in the ministry. I think that there is an exaggeration and overzealousness on media that if they pick up something, they think that the house is falling apart. The ANC government ministers are fighting amongst themselves, and so on. I just dispute that. But what I want is that everybody under my authority, including myself, must work according to the rule book. That is all.
And is your team, including the deputy minister, doing that?
Well, I'm hoping so, because all what I was doing was actually to clarify as to who is supposed to do what, and if we want to do things correct, we must actually do that. Even the media I was talking about, I wasn't even talking about commercial media. I was talking about our own internal media, because the aim is not to showcase Nzimande as a person. I'm not interested. I'm far less interested in that. I've been in media now for most of my adult life. The most important thing is that we must be able to showcase what government is doing. For example, Tembegile, the things I'm talking about, last week I went to open important infrastructure at Walter Sisulu University. Yesterday, I was at the University of the Western Cape. New student residences, new state-of-the-art lecture halls, and so on. Those things we must be able to showcase to South Africans to say, this is what government is doing. That is all that I'm concerned about. It's not about me, but it's about this government and what it is doing in the country.
What then does it say, though? Yes, it can be argued that the media or the people who published a report based on that recording, and I'm not sure if that's the conversation in its entirety, it's one thing to talk about the recording and its weight being played up or exaggerated, but it does the existence of the recording and its leak to the media raises questions, does it not, about the people around you and the team and the level of professionalism and trust that exists and people did commend you for this, people saying you were in fact very measured when you raised your concerns, but it brings about the question of why someone who was in that room would A, make the recording, B, share it with the media.
Absolutely, Tembegile, you are right. The fact that the people I was raising these problems with, amongst them, I get recorded and they leak this, shows the extent of the problem that I have. And it shows the necessity for me then to raise the things that were subsequently leaked. I am investigating that, and whoever I find to have been responsible, and I'm confident that I will take action. I won't hesitate, because this is totally unprofessional, by the way. Secondly, they are violating their own commitments. There are minimum information standards in government. And when you get employed in government, you also sign that you will actually protect information that is being processed within government until it is properly announced through spokespersons or through myself in relation to my two departments and my ministry. I am going to take very stern action because people who are doing this do not actually deserve, not just to be in my department, to be working for our government. Because it means we can't plan, we can't freely discuss things, we can't engage our problems honestly when we are meeting amongst ourselves. I'm going to take action, and I am hopeful that not long from now, we will be able to identify who those people are and what their agenda is. What is the agenda of releasing a meeting of the minister? Precisely, it relates to the point that I was raising.
Right.
Some of them were deliberately aiming to cause conflict between myself and the deputy minister and my senior managers by choosing sometimes to just block me out in our own media platforms and then showing others in a manner that is actually going to cause suspicions.
Just on that,
means, yes, I do have...
Just on that, Minister, because we're almost out of time, as I was saying earlier, do you believe there's a concerted effort to flush you out of the ministry? Is that what's going on here, where basically this is what we're seeing the beginning of a campaign to get rid of you?
Well, there might as well be. I can't say so. You know, there's always campaigns. I'm in politics now long enough. I'm no longer a baby and wet behind my ears. I always know that there are people who wish that they could be in positions and all that. I care less about that, actually. What I care more about is for me to do my work. Whilst I'm still minister, I will do my work, and I expect everybody who works with me to work according to the rule book. That there may be people who do not like that. It's possible, they are possibly there, but I'm far less worried about that, as I'm saying, because I want myself to say, here is the work that must be done, and no one must do things outside of the rules that we have set for ourselves that they must be done. I'm quite strict and unapologetic when it comes to that template.
Just finally, then, do you trust, as you say, that there's been an attempt to drive a rift, if you will, between your deputy and the senior managers in your office? Do you trust that they are not themselves involved in such a campaign, or are you looking at them as well with a degree of suspicion?
You can't operate when you are actually suspecting everybody. That is why what I'm going to do, I've started already with an investigation so that we are able to identify the real culprits. And then we are able to deal with those culprits. Otherwise, if I'm seeing everybody as posing a threat, as going to record me and leak, it means I'm not going to be able to work. Maybe some of the people who are behind us, that's what they want to see. I'm not going to allow that. I am going to take all the necessary measures that needs to be taken. I have already reported this to law enforcement agencies and other structures of government that are actually able to help us with this, so that we are able to identify the real culprits. But I'm not going to go around now chasing my own shadows and do all those kinds of things. I'm not that kind of a person. I've been around now for long enough to understand the terrain and the politics and how to engage and deal with those matters.
Minister Blade Nzimande, good to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time tonight.